Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorial. Obviously this isn't Blender, but if you watched my previous video on Blender, we're going to be continuing where we left off, making our Fluttershy model. This is about where we left off. There'll be a link in the description if you missed the first one and want to recap, or want to see it for the first time or whatever. We're going to be continuing with the basic modeling. We're going to do the legs, we'll probably do the eyes as well, and do the mouth. And if we have any more time, we'll start on the mane and tail. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start by adding some legs in. Doing this, what we're going to do is with our Fluttershy model, or our Fluttershy background image, we're going to put the 3D cursor at the bottom. We're going to start on the front. Start front feet, hooves, legs. We're going to put the 3D cursor at the bottom of our front leg. I'm going to go into top view, make sure it's about in the right spot, slide it over just a little bit. It's hard working in 3D on a 2D screen. It makes it just a little bit challenging. But we're going to go Shift A, add a cylinder, and just like we've done everything else, we're going to do a basic block out of her legs. One thing that you are going to have to keep in mind with this is you will actually need a certain amount of loops in this to make it to where when we apply our skeleton, it will actually work right. Black screen. I'm beginning to notice a pattern with this black screen thing. It only does it when it starts. But, you're going to need a certain number of loops just to make it to where Blender can apply the skeleton properly. As we can see. One of the versions of the model I did not have enough loops in it, and it didn't quite work right. So make sure that you do have enough loops for the model. Otherwise, like I said, it's not quite going to work right. Don't like the function key. Alright. Gotta adjust this just a little bit, just to get it to work out just that little bit better. Alright, there we go. That ought to be good. Alright, that's front leg. We're going to go and do both legs and then combine them into the mesh. Shift A, add another cylinder for the rear leg. As I quoted 1,000 times in the first video, and I'm probably going to quote at least 1,000 more times in this video, it doesn't have to be perfect. Once I get the legs done, I will show you why it doesn't have to be perfect. If you don't already know the little trick that I've used. I just noticed her tail is clipping through her back leg in the image. Oh well, let's hope we can make it to where that doesn't happen on the actual model. The back legs are a tiny bit more challenging, I've noticed, just because of the nature of the leg. But then just get it to look how you think it looks good. Alrighty now. Now one thing on the back legs, building this out as I was just doing, is going to yield you with this. This will not do. So what I do to combat this is I go and do either the front or rear view, and I'll actually rotate this top cylinder up, basically about a 90 degree, maybe a little bit less, and slide it in. I'm also going to take on the loop below it, which is going to be this one right here. I'm going to take, review's easier, just the bottom loop, scale it on the x-axis, just to flatten it just a little bit. I'll go ahead and do that same thing on the two below that, just a tiny bit, just to make it look a bit more accurate. Legs are not near that round. And then I'll do the same thing I did on the front one, just give her a little bit of a foot hoof thing. take it down, scale it in, just like that. Alright, that's actually satisfactory for 2 legs. It's looking more or less actually like a pony. Alright. If you did end up watching the first video, you know what we're now going to do. We're going to combine the 2 legs into the body, which was about the same laboriousness as it was on the neck. Now, one thing I would like you to note, and I messed this up on my last model, is make sure that the 2 rear feet and subsequently 2 front feet are not clipping through each other. If you go into a front or a rear view and you can see space between the legs, it's perfect. If you see no space, then you need to actually take and widen the legs out just a little bit. The last model I did, when I added the bones to the legs, it actually grabbed part of the other foot and made for a little bit of annoying sorting it all out with the weight painting. My primary goal of a model like this is to make it to where you don't have to do all that much weight painting, which I was able to successfully do on my last model. I don't think I had to do much weight painting at all. Nope. I'm just going in on the back legs, adding a couple loops in just to make it easier to combine the meshes. Just add a couple loops where you think it's necessary. Yeah, I did enable the mirror mode. I still only have to build half the model. I'll go and disable that again. Alright, we should be good to go to start. Yeah. Yet again, I'll be doing a link. If you want to skip ahead, feel free. Because this is just basic stuff that you already know how to do. Hopefully. If you watched my last video, you already know how to do all this. Why watch something that you already know how to do? It does seem rather pointless, does it not? So yeah, if you want to hear me just talk on and on again, feel free, I'll be right here. Just talking away, but annotation is going to be right about in here somewhere. And skip ahead, feel free, I will rejoin you when you skip, after you've skipped ahead, or not, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just deleting all these inside faces, trying to clean up the inside just a little bit so I know what I've got to deal with and what I don't need to deal with. These ones right in here are a little bit annoying, are they not? There we go. Yeah, on the inside here, I'm going to go to the connected proportional editor. And kind of move these up a little bit, just to get them closer to our model. Alright, so there we go. Turn that back off. I already forgot screencasting, or the key display thing, which is a really awesome tool. And then I'm just going to go and start. What on earth did that do? Did not do what I wanted it to. Very well. Do over. Alright, there we go. And then just go and start facing out all these edges. Get it to be one continuous mesh. Alright. So yeah. Yeah, actually, yesterday, this morning, right after I uploaded the video, I actually went and looked to see if there was any Blender pony models tutorials. No, there are none. So sadly, I was right. Black screen. Did it again. Apparently not what I thought it was. Alright, where on earth have I put that? Oh, it's inside, it's clipping through. That's not at all what I need. Alright. I'm going to delete a couple more faces. I think there was like 3 or 4 videos with Blender ponies, but no tutorials of any kind. There's one. It wasn't a tutorial, but it was using the Gmod models by KP Shadow Squirrel, ported into Blender by Cheerly something. I actually have a copy of those models on my computer, but I figured I want to actually try and make my own. I was going to use them and try and do a workaround for custom models, but figured out it wasn't going to work, so I had to kind of do this, and do custom models. But I think it was alright. Yeah, the models those models were amazing models. I mean, it looks like they're right out of Gmod if you've ever played that. That is a cool game. I've never played it. My friend owns it. I don't. I kind of wish I did, but I don't. Yeah. So you should actually try and find those models. I can put a link in the description if you want to see them. I actually used them just to kind of figure out a little bit more about how the Blender's rigging system actually, or not the rigging system, how it's just, I used it to figure out a bit more about Blender, and how I should actually try and make my models. So, they're great models. They're some of the most realistic pony models I've ever seen, that's for sure. Which is very amazing. One thing I am going to do, eventually, with this Fluttershy model, is I'm actually going to try and do some camera tracking with it. And if you know anything about camera tracking, which I don't know much, but I know it's fun. Camera tracking is basically importing, well, importing isn't exactly the right word. It's using, like, taking a video of something in real life and putting a 3D model into that video. That, in my mind, is just totally awesome. Who wouldn't want to have a bunch of ponies running around in real life? I mean, that would just be totally cool. And I've made a slight error in how I'm building this, of course. That's what I forget or that's what I get for talking and blending at the same time. Blending, not only a program, it's a sport. Now let's do those, and that. Alright, there we go. Alright, yes, we've got a lumpy back leg. And there's obviously quite a bit we still have to delete from the inside here. You can see through Fluttershy's leg. Yeah, most of this video is probably going to be just a little bit of skipping and stuff. But I hope that's alright. Who knows, you may just watch this video just to hear me talk and talk about randomness. Yeah. One thing I probably ought to mention is, in the first part of my last video, I switched this right here. This is actually a setting that I have enabled in my user preferences. I can show you that just real quick. In the system, this is if you have an amazing GPU, specifically an NVIDIA GPU. If you go to your user preference, go to System, go down to the Compute Device, and switch it to CUDA. What that will do, and then make sure your graphics card is selected, what that will do is it will enable Blender Render or the rendering engine to use your built-on GPU. Wait, as long as you switch this to GPU compute, it will actually render using your GPU instead. Now, if you have an awesome computer, which mine is more or less, mine's a good computer. We'll just leave it at that. And like, if you have a gaming system, a gaming computer, then you'll probably actually want to use your NVIDIA GPU. If you have a workstation, definitely use your NVIDIA GPU. The NVIDIA GPU for rendering is insane. On my computer, because I'm actually on a laptop right now, you can't tell. You're just watching a screen. I mean, I can shake the screen, it's not going to do anything. You can't tell. So, because mine's actually a laptop, the GPU and the CPU are rendering almost exactly the same speed. But if you render using your GPU, and like me, they're the same speed, it will allow you to still use your computer, just as long as you don't go and play a game or something. Excuse me. Again, excuse me. So, yeah. I took and rendered an image out using the CPU, and then I did the exact same image using the GPU. On mine, it was about a 2-second difference. That's nothing to write home about. But if you have a desktop with one of the powerful NVIDIA GPUs, like a 760, their 760 desktop GPU, you'll probably get a big improvement. When I actually get really good at rendering, I'm going to try and build my own desktop, and I'm going to do that. You can even take and run I'm pretty sure it'll work. This GPU renderer is actually a fairly new thing in Blender, as far as I know. So it may not work if you actually have a SLI GPU setup, but I would hope that it would, and if it did, that would give you an insane amount of rendering power. For those of you who don't know what SLI is, it's where you put two of the same GPU, they have to be the same, in your computer. Your CPU doesn't really know the difference, but your GPUs will act one and the same. So instead of taking and it gets a little bit complicated. In short, whenever your GPU is said to do a task, the primary GPU will give the second one a little bit of its task, and they'll both do the same task. It combines your graphics processor, not your graphics memory. That is one thing to keep in mind. So make sure that your primary card has enough memory to do everything you're wanting to, but if you need more processing, actual GPU processing power, then an SLI card is really, really good. Yeah. Being a laptop, I cannot put dual graphics cards in my computer, sadly, because that would be totally awesome if you could. But you can't, just because it's a laptop. Alright. This will probably be where you join me if you skipped the video, or skipped all that. Yeah. We're now going to, well, hopefully your model does not look as shabby as mine does. Let me go and clean this up just a little bit. Slide stuff back closer to the body. Pull stuff out further from the body if you have to. Just whatever you like, whatever makes it look good to you. I really wish I would have done this a little bit better. Our Fluttershy model is a little bit shabby right now. Alright. So, the first trick is the cut the model in half thing. If we go back to our modifier panel, re-enable the x-axis mirroring, we'll just tab out of edit. And then we're going to add our second modifier. You're going to go to the add modifier panel and do subdivision surface. First thing it's going to do is it's going to do exactly what it says. It's going to subdivide the model. One thing that you are going to want to do is I would very strongly recommend you do not apply this at all, especially if you have a lower power computer, because this will very much start chewing your computer to pieces. You've got two options. You've got view and render. Render is automatically set to 2, view is automatically set to 1. This is just how many times this modifier is going to subdivide the model in the view, in your 3D view like this, versus your rendered view, which is not that. It's when you actually click the render icon, and it'll actually finalize render the image out. Just to show you what I'll normally set mine at 3, and that's what it looks like. Now you'll notice that this has boosted the vertices from at 0 is about 2,300 vertices. When I crank it up to 3, we've now got 152,000 vertices. But the model looks really good. Now you will notice some of the stuff like this. It does get a little complicated trying to iron all that out. But the other trick will wait until the model is actually finished to apply. Now, big recommendation. If I actually render it out, you can see we've actually got much more natural lines. It looks a much, much better model. If I tab into edit mode, go into, I guess any view will do, but you'll notice our wireframe right here, and our mesh is below the wireframe. Now, what it'll do is it'll subdivide the thing down and make it just a tiny bit smaller than you started. It's not all that noticeable. Zoom in, this is a very, very small difference. But the second set of lines is actually where the subdivision modifier is taking over. We've got our normal skeleton, and the subdivided lines are all right in there, so it subdivides this thing a lot. Yeah, we've got a gray Fluttershy all the way back there. But, recommendation is actually leave this turned off. Makes our model look really bad, but you can turn it up to render level 3 and view level 0. Or, one trick that I found recently was if you go into the scene panel, all the way at the bottom there's the simplify tab. You run that all the way down to 0, check mark the simplify, and then turn your render back up to whatever you, or your view subdivide up to whatever you want. And this is so if you're doing animations, it will actually play at the normal speed. I can uncheck simplify and it'll actually go and subdivide everything back to what I set it to. Check mark the box, it undoes everything. Because when you start running several thousand vertices on each model, Blender will slow down a lot. I wonder if this will actually work like this. If I go into our timeline viewer, just click play. Top left corner, it's got a frames per second at 24 right now. If I uncheck simplify, so it's actually subdividing it, click play, it's actually skipping just a little bit more. Now the model's actually not moving at all. So it's not really going to work, but if your model's moving around, it cannot handle it. At least mine can't. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this thing simplified. I'm going to go back to our modifiers, uncheck x-axis mirroring, and tab back into edit mode, and what do you say we actually do a mouth? Why not? We're going to go and do a knife, and I'm going to cut out a mouth. About like that. Oop. No. Actually, we don't need knife. Just take, and I'm just going to delete the front 3. Just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bottom faces. I'm going to extrude, leave them right there, and then grab them straight back. We're doing a very, very simple mouth. Extrude, leave it, drag back, and then same thing we've done quite a bit already. We're going to face this back up. Faces everywhere, faces inside your mouth, face, and face. Alright, this is going to be our very simple mouth. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a loop slide, run it about right there. We're going to take the top 3 panels, extrude them up, bit something like that, delete that side one that it created, extrude these guys down and back, delete that side one. This is going to give us a rough estimate of lips. Every pony's got to have lips. Otherwise, talking becomes very difficult. Yeah, something a little bit like that. To make sure it's not clipping through the face. That looks really strange. Alright, fix that. Let's do that one too. There we go. Alright. I believe that that'll work. Alright. You can go and add teeth if you want. For the sake of this model, I'm not going to... Well... sure, why not? Teeth are easy. I hope. Oop. Not duplicate. Gonna do another loop slide. Run it about right there. And do another loop slide. Run it about right there. These are going to be very simple teeth. You were expecting something complicated? You're in the wrong video. These are going to be our teeth. Well, not our teeth. They're going to be Fluttershy's teeth. Yes, these are absurdly simple. Delete that and delete that. Alright. If you want to check on the progress, you can go and uncheck Simplify. One recommendation I do have on the teeth is to make them look a bit more realistic and not quite as rounded. Take your last, or the close edge of the teeth, extrude it, take it down just a little bit. What it'll do is it'll tell to not subdivide near as roundy. Same thing on the bottom. There we go. We've actually got semi-flat teeth now. A fairly realistic mouth too. That's kind of nice. Make all this a bit easier in shape when we go to do texturing. Go ahead and select all your teeth faces. All of them. If you have to, use the C area selector thingy. Deselect anything you didn't actually need. Same thing on the top ones. Make sure you get all the faces on the teeth. Come on. Come on. That's gums. Come on. There you are. These little these little extruded panels are very difficult to get. Alright, come on, last one. I still didn't get it, come on. There we go, alright. We go into your little panel that looks like a triangle. This is our vertex group panel. On the very top one, we're going to add a vertex group. We're going to name this group teeth. And we're going to click the assign button. Click enter to figure that out. Alright, then click the assign button. Now what this is going to do is if I deselect all this, and then I click select, and it's going to pick out our teeth. It's going to make it much easier to go and just pick areas of the model that we need. because ponies are very, very simple. They're basically just a few colors. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the mouth this way, the inside of the mouth. So pick everything that would be a gum color, or a fleshy bit of the mouth color. How about that? Which there is quite a bit of mouth here. Make sure not to select any of the teeth. Boy, some of these get a little hard to find. Alright, nope. I'm gonna go and select that. Yes. There's almost definitely a much faster way of doing this, but I don't really know what it is. And that guy. Alright, I think that's about good. Same thing, we're going to click the plus icon, create another vertex group, and name this gums. Click the assign button, make sure the gums are the only thing you have selected. And then we've got gums right there, and we've got teeth right there. Alright, that makes all of that a lot easier. Now what we're going to do is, one of my least favorite parts is making eyes. I don't like making eyes because they are somewhat difficult to make. The best way I figured out how to do this is tab out of edit mode, put the 3D cursor right about the middle of the eye, and one trick to this is place it a little bit away from your model, like this. Our 3D cursor is way out here, our model's way over here. Side view, it looks like it's in the same spot. Shift A, add a UV sphere. We're going to scale it down, and same thing as we've just about always done so far, is we're going to roughly make it the size of our eye. Now, Fluttershy's eye happens to not be round. This is annoying. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have to edit the eye. We're going to have to do, just to make it easy, I'm going to split the view, so I can keep one in front view, one in side view, that kind of stuff. I'm going to tab into edit mode and start editing our little Fluttershy's eye. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab in essence, the front four, switch into proportional editor, grab the front, and pull them in. Wow, that happens to be just about exactly perfect. Just about. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab the back, pull them in to where her eye is about the right shape, about right like that. And now, one thing we have is we have a very wide eye. I'm going to tab out of edit mode. I'm going to scale it in the x-axis and just flatten it. We want it to have a little bit of shape, but not as much shape as it had before. We slide that over. Our eye actually fits in the socket. We're going to have to rotate it just a little bit to actually get it to fit perfectly. Scale it up just a tiny bit. Slide it in. I'm going to edit it just a little bit from in here. Just a tiny bit. Alright. There we go. Tab. We're going to let it subdivide up. And that's what our Fluttershy's eye looks like. Alright. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save this. And we're going to go out of Blender. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to make Fluttershy's actual eye texture. Yes, we're going to start getting into a little bit of texturing stuff. So, we're going to open GIMP. If you don't already have GIMP, GIMP is an amazing, amazing program. It's also a free program. What we're going to do is we're going to open GIMP, create a image 1000 by 1000, open advanced options, make sure it has fill with transparency. Select OK. This is an absolute blank image. There's no information data with this image whatsoever. We're going to put some information data on it. Alright, we're going to select our oval tool, or circle tool. What is it called? Ellipse select tool. Alright. We're going to make a fairly oval shape of an eye. We're now going to fill in color. Use the background, foreground colors. Select your... Alright. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to open a picture of Fluttershy's eye. Open an image of it. Alright, this eye right here. If you notice, it starts out at one color, goes to a different color. It just transitions that color. We're going to use that same tool. We're going to use the gradient tool. How a gradient tool in Blender works is you select a foreground color and a background color. Both of them different. Just put them about roughly at what I think Fluttershy's eye colors are. Select the gradient tool, or it's labeled the blend tool, but it's actually a gradient. We're going to select the linear gradient, foreground to background. And there's 1,000. Foreground to background, just its default 1. I'm going to select bottom left, rough bottom, black screen. Why? Rough bottom left corner, rough top right corner, and do that. And there we have the rough image of Fluttershy's eye. I've done it backwards, actually. Make sure, like in this image, the dark is up on top and the light is down on the bottom. Make sure it's that way. Alright, next we're going to take our ellipse tool yet again, create another one. I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. Make sure to leave a fair bit of the eye around it. We're going to go to our bucket fill. And we're going to select black. Done it again. Make sure the area affected is fill whole sections. And we got black. Our ellipse tool. On Fluttershy's eye, it's got the reflective white areas. We're going to do those as well. Just put them wherever you think they should be. We're going to do that, and we're going to do white right there. And another one down there, like that. There we go. That's more or less Fluttershy's eye. Alright. File, export. Save it wherever you feel you want to save it. I'm going to save it with Fluttershy and all her stuff. Make sure it's saved as a PNG. Make sure you save background color and all that. Alright. Now we can close GIMP. Alright. Back to Blender. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to do a fairly nifty function of Blender. Is we're going to map a image to the mesh. We're going to do the eye, we're going to go into tab, make sure everything's selected, and we're going to do tab, what is it? Alright, how have I forgotten this? Why have I forgotten this? Oh. Select everything. Wow. Select everything and hit the U key. I'm going to select Smart UV Project. Just click OK. What this has done is that this has UV mapped the eye, what we're looking at. Then we go to UV Image Editor. This is what we get. I think I may need to do it a different way. Oh, I need to project from view. My bad. Wow. Project from view UV mapping. If we go back to our image, this is what our image looks like. I've done it wrong again. A, C, select anything that's visible. Why am I having so many difficulties with this? Alright, you project from view. Go back to our UV image editor. There we go. That looks about right. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the materials tab. I'm going to click new material. Make sure this is using nodes. Make sure you're in the cycles render. If you're not in the cycles rendering engine, this will not work right. Make sure you're in cycles render. We're going to go to the node editor. May have to experiment on this just a tiny bit. Alright, we're going to add a shader. We're going to add a glossy shader. We're going to add a texture. We're going to add an image texture. Run the color from the image texture into the color of the glossy shader. Open our Fluttershy eye. And just for right now, we're going to run the glossy shader straight to the material output. If you want, you can turn on preview, and that's what it's going to look like. You go to 3D view, Control Z, render it. That's what it's going to look like. It's not going to look right. Go to our UV image editor, open Fluttershy eye, going to hit A, grab all of our meshes, or all of our faces, hit the scale button, and just scale this thing way up. Move it about where you think it should be. If we go back to our 3D view, Fluttershy looks very creepy. Alright. Scale it down just a little bit. 3D view. You're gonna have to tweak with it just a little bit to get it to look right. 3D view, there we go, that looks about right. Yeah, ignore the black, we're gonna fix that right now. Go back to the node editor, go Shift A, add a mix shader, then Shift A, add a glossy shader. Just run those two together. And if I remember right, we use the alpha to control that. Flip the two around. There we go. Glossy has to be on the bottom, or our eye image texture has to be on the bottom. Our glossy shader has to be on the top. We're going to turn the roughness down just a little bit. We're running the alpha from the image texture into the factor on the mix shader, and that is going to render us an eye, just like that. Of course, there are multiple ways to do this. This is not the only way to do it. This is the way that I've found works very nicely. We're going to add another modifier, Subdivision Surface, level 3. And we've actually got a very smooth eye. Tab out. That looks wonderful. Oops, that's level 4. We'll put it at level 3. Alright. Now what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that tab AA, again screen flash, vertex group, eye, assign. We're doing this because we're going to combine the eye into the body. Assign, yes. Alright. Make sure it hasn't messed with the image. Alright, good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to tab out of edit mode, have our eye selected, select the body, and Shift J, I believe. No. Alright, there's a way to do it from down here. Control J. Alright, hit Control J. And what that does is it will join the eye to our body. Make sure you've actually finished the eye, because it will be a little bit more difficult to edit if you don't. But you'll notice this has also gone and added our material to the body. It's not entirely what we wanted, but it'll work all right. So, I don't know what time I'm up to, actually. We're going to do a quick wrap-up with adding Fluttershy's body color, just to get a little bit of difference going here. We're going to add a new material, new. I'm going to go to our node editor. I'm going to delete the diffuse shader, add a mix shader. Now this is kind of what I figured out actually works fairly well. We're going to add a hair BSDF shader. We're not going to duplicate that. We're going to add a, if I remember, it's another, or a diffuse shader. Set the hair from reflection to transmission. And we're going to set both the Fluttershy color, or the hair color, and the diffuse color to our Fluttershy. That's Fluttershy's color right there. Oh. That's Fluttershy's color. It's going to take a little bit of tweaking to get just perfect, but having nothing but time, or having time, you can get it pretty good. Alright. Going to go back to our 3D view, tab into edit mode, go here, select our teeth, select our gums, select the eyes, do Shift, Control I, and it will invert the selection. We're going to go to our materials and click the Assign button. Shift Z, and it's going to render Fluttershy with her new color. Yeah. Want to go ahead and add gums and teeth right now? Sure thing. We're going to click New. Another material. I should have been naming these. Gums. That one's the body. That's the eye. Gonna go back to our gums. Now, in my experience, the gums are a little bit harder to do. We're gonna Shift A, add a mix shader. I am a big fan of these mix shaders. Gonna add a glossy shader. And what's the other shader we need? We need I think we need a refraction shader. We're going to put the color to a fleshy red color. We need to do a little bit more tweaking with this. Yeah, we're going to add a third shader. We're going to add a diffuse. And we're going to add another mix shader. I'm going to change this over to about that color. Turn the roughness up. 3D view. I'm going to select, get out of rendering mode, select just the gums. I'm going to go to the gums material and assign it. That could be a little bit more pink. Back to our node editor. If you want, just split the view, switch the second one over to the node editor, and we're going to add a little bit more pink to it. Run pink there, and there. I think that'll do quite nicely, actually. Alright, Control S. Yeah, Control S, it worked. And with that, that will conclude this tutorial. I hope that you guys will join me for the third tutorial when we're going to be doing the wings, the mane, and the tail. And then eventually the fourth tutorial when we do character rigging and stuff like that. If you've, excuse me, I ate cereal. It's killing me. If you enjoyed this tutorial, feel free to hit like. If you want to see more weird tutorials like this, feel free to subscribe. There will be more in the future. That's about it. And we're going to get this Fluttershy model done eventually. Believe me, we will. So, yeah. I guess that's about it. See you guys later. Bye.